How many of y'all have enjoyed the 50 Days of Excellence series this past several weeks? It's been a joy walking with Pastor Stovall and Pastor Kerri and our leadership team, and just looking at what all God's done in the last several weeks. And we've seen several miracles happen in the area of finances and people's families and things like that. And so we're really, really grateful. And tonight at the 5:30 service, we want to close out this 50 Days of Excellence series by inviting every one of you to come back tonight with Dr. Dave Martin, who's based in Orlando. He's going to be sharing a strong message tonight about how God is here to establish the work of your hands. How many of y'all want God to establish the work of your hands, to bring great fruit to what you're doing, to bring great excellence into your work, into your home? Pastor Stovall, I personally believe that Friday night we had over 1,000 of the volunteer leaders here at Celebration. How many of you were here? Say, yep. Pastor Stovall had on this camouflage tie, and I believe that camouflage tie brought out some dangerous dance moves on the dance floor out there in front of the building. And needless to say, Pastor Stovall is a little bit under the weather, and he has medication. He's going to be here at the building today. But he has asked Pastor Kerri to close out this series, 50 Days of Excellence. And so I want you to get on your feet and give the greatest celebration welcome you can to our pastor, Kerri Weems.
Thank you. Hey, while you're standing, why don't you go ahead and join me in welcoming our online audience and everyone who's joining us at our locations. We are so glad you're here with us at Celebration Church this morning. Thank you for joining us. We believe that God is going to speak into your life and you're going to be blessed today. You can be seated. Well, I know Stovall is so disappointed that he's not able to be here today. He really isn't not feeling well, but I have had the great privilege this time around of working with him on this message, because this was a couple of weeks ago. I talked about your work is worship. If you were here, you might remember that. Your work is worship. Just like we worship by grace, we worship with joy, we worship with excellence, we work by grace, we work with joy, we work with excellence. And so I was going to do that first part, and he was going to do the second part, but turns out we formed the message together, and I'm just going to share his heart with you through his notes today that he's given to me. But if you missed that first part, I encourage you to go check it out. It is on our website at celebration.org. You can catch the first part, and this is the second part today, and we're going to close out. And just by way of review, just in case you did miss it, let me just kind of back up, because a lot of times we tend to think of our work as part of the curse of the fall of man, something that we have been doomed to do that could be meaningless, it could be tedious, it could be boring, it could be something that gets us from weekend to weekend. That old song says everybody's working for the weekend, right? Well, God wants us to work more than for the weekend, and he wants us to work more than for a paycheck. God's idea of work is not necessarily the same as our idea of work. God's idea of work was his original intent for all of us as human beings, as men and women. His original intent for us before sin ever entered the world, man and woman were given a job description, a pretty big one. Multiply, be fruitful and multiply, take dominion over the earth and subdue it. That's a pretty big job description. Work was always part of what we were created for. And it was intended to be an overflow of our relationship with God and an expression of our purpose on the earth. So work isn't really the problem. It's the way that our relationship and our view of work changed after the fall. Before the fall, the earth was created and designed to respond to the work of our hands. Growth, peace, fruitfulness, multiplication, prosperity were the fabric of Eden. They were woven into the fabric of that world. But when sin entered the world, the fabric of the world was marred and broken and changed. And the curse is not work. The curse is that we would labor and bring forth multiplication and bring forth fruit by the sweat of our brow. Can I tell you something? The good news is that Jesus became the curse for us. He breaks the curse on our life. And we are free in him through the redemption of our spirits and souls. Our redemption as believers, it doesn't stop at just our spirit, just our soul. It goes on and permeates and rebuilds the fabric of our lives, so that not just the inner man is rewoven and reshaped and refashioned in the image of Christ, but our outer world begins to come into alignment with his covenant with us. And that means that our work is redeemed, and that our purpose is redeemed, and that we don't have to be at odds with the work of our hands, but we can rely on the grace of God to establish it, to set it upright, and to confirm it, to strengthen it. And so in this 50 days of excellence, we've been basically taking back the redemptive fabric of our work. And I don't know about you, but we do right now tend to have this love-hate relationship. Even though our work is redeemed, even though we're rebuilding the fabric of our Monday to Friday, we still can have this love-hate relationship with our work. It's true. I don't know about you, but just because you're in the ministry doesn't mean that you love every single thing you do. There are things that I do, like ministry is not a magic pill for career satisfaction, just in case you're wondering. It's not. I still have to do things I don't like to do and don't want to do. I still have to do and own things and do activities that don't bring out the best of who I am and don't use my biggest strengths. All of us, no matter where we are called, have to do things that can cause us to have a love-hate relationship with our work. There are times when it's releasing and empowering and building on our strengths, and we're challenged and we're creating and it's exciting. And then there's times when we feel like a horse in a stall. We're anxious to get out. We want to leave. We want to move. There's something more in us, but we feel constrained. Everybody feels these ways. These points of feeling constrained are points of growth for us if we see our work not as something that we tick off Monday to Friday so we can get to the weekend, but as our offering of worship to the Lord, our offering for God. You know, when I was in college, I had a series of jobs like you do when you're in college, and one of them I had was, believe it or not, I used to be a maid. I used to clean houses. And I cleaned houses for this one lady who I loved. She was a friend of one of she was the mother of one of my college friends. And I loved her, but she was a little bit eccentric, and she had everything in her house was like sentimental to her. Like there was nothing. This was in the days before West Elm and before Target, and really, you didn't have cheap furniture back then. So everything was kind of like family heirlooms, and you would keep your sofa for like 30 years and put that plastic on it. Everything was precious to her. And so she was real eccentric in the way that she liked to clean her house. Like she worked from home, but she would work in her bedroom. So she would take her papers and she would stack them all over her floor. I don't know why. It was not my place to ask. That's not my role. That's her business. But she would take her papers and stack them in piles all over her bedroom floor. But then she wanted me to vacuum her bedroom floor. But I couldn't move the papers. So I had to get the vacuum cleaner and I had to vacuum her floor between the papers. Do you know how hard now look, they couldn't move. Now if you have a vacuum cleaner, you know what vacuums do to papers. So I would have to go and like get little things and paperweight them down and then put them, back exactly where they were on the thing. She was very meticulous. She knew her house. And then she had these antique flower sculptures made of ceramic. And they were roses, these roses, ceramic antique roses. And the reason it's important that they're antiques is because it meant that these roses couldn't be submerged in water or exposed to soap. And yet, they had to be cleaned. Not on the outside, in between the petals of the ceramic roses. Now, so you can have a greater understanding, the whole sculpture was about the size of a silver dollar. Yes. And I wasn't allowed to wash it with water or submerge it, so I had to get the vacuum cleaner once I vacuumed around the papers. And I had to vacuum in between the flower petals to get the dust out of the flower petals. No, I'm serious. Have you ever, imagine it's this big, size of a silver dollar, and I've got a vacuum cleaner. I'm trying to vacuum between these, and I'm just like, one day I'm just going to get these things. I'm just going to put them in water. But I was terrified because I didn't know how old they were. And what if I put them in soap and water and they disintegrated into the sink, right? Where are my flowers? I don't know. Okay, but I had a love-hate relationship with this job because I loved the person, but I hated the way she wanted me to clean her house. But I remember one day I was cleaning those rose petals and I said, God, I hate this job. I hate it, but I really need it, but I hate it. Why can't she just be normal, like a regular person? Just accept that your flowers are going to be dusty or let me wash them with soap. It's impossible. She's giving me a job to do that is impossible. No one could do this. You would have to be like a guard. You'd have to have fingers, like pipe cleaners. It's just crazy. And God said, just remember that you're doing this as unto me. Just try to please me. And as I would clean those petals every day, I started turning that. It was the worst part of my day. I hated it. But I would begin to use that time just to pray and to lift up thanks to God. And I never got it right. And I was frequently inspected with the flowers. They were especially important to this person. But I did it as unto the Lord. And sometimes, I would think, well, when I start teaching, because I was in college to get my teaching degree, and I would think, when I start teaching is going to be so great. I just can't wait till I don't have to clean houses anymore and I can go teach and I'm going to get paid to sit behind a desk and enlighten young, bright minds. And my students are going to be hanging on my every word. They're going to be so impressed with my wisdom and they're going to realize that they do love Shakespeare and that Homer's Iliad is the stuff of life. And they're going to love writing. I'm going to be like Dead Poets Society. It's going to be great. But you know what the reality of that was? I came home from working my first ever day on the job as a teacher, and I sat on my couch and said, I won't be doing this for long. Because you know what I found out when I was a teacher? I'm not a morning person. School starts early. I forgot that I hated that part of school. And even when I was teaching, I thought, you know what? When I finish teaching, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. It's going to be awesome just to be at home, enjoying the moments, embracing the little precious moments with my baby. It's going to be great to run my house and have time to cook and decorate. Boy, did that not work out the way I thought. Time to cook and decorate. Like, can I please go back to work and get some rest now? It was so much easier. Like, I could go to the bathroom by myself at work. Now I'm like, this is the dream of my life, to go to the bathroom by myself. I used to want it all. Now I just want to go to the bathroom by myself. It's just my goals shrank for a while there, right? And I thought, if I could only go back to work. We're going to plant this church and it's going to be great. And I'm going to get in the ministry full time. Oh boy. Sure wasn't what I thought. Leading worship with a band that had never played one note, no training. My husband dropping beats in the middle of my song. Chris on the electric guitar. Every knee shall bow. It wasn't like the Shekinah glory dropping down like I imagined. It was like survival. Can I not be humiliated this Sunday? Right? But here's the point I'm saying. We have a love-hate relationship with work. Every job has moments we love and moments we hate. Both of those moments are important to God.